Hello and welcome to the Figma Beginners course, where you will learn the features of Figma as well as unravel several user interface principles along the way. This course will give you a head start on how to perceive and prioritize users' experience, all while designing an interface that promotes the purpose of the application, blog, or website that you're creating. The course is going to be short, smooth, and informative, especially if you're interested in understanding users' flow and usage of technologies nowadays. Just a note before we get into this course's details, there are no specific requirements for you to be able to take this course other than having a laptop, good Wi-Fi, and of course a positive mindset. If anything explained in the course needs more clarification, please do not hesitate to start a discussion in the course so I or any of your fellow learners can help you create the best versions of projects you can come out of this course with. Asking questions and having discussions regarding users' interface and user experience is extremely encouraged. Questions can be exceptionally useful not only for you, but for other learners as well. If you don't have any questions but want to let us know how we're doing, you can also leave a review in order to improve the course for yourself and others in the future. So, without further ado, let's get started. The things that you will be learning in this course includes the overall complete usage of Figma. This includes a lot of features such as designing, collaborating on projects through it, and receiving feedback directly from it. Now, if you don't have a great idea on what Figma is, I will firstly get into the concept of user experience, or UX in short. UX designs are a little different than just straight up web or app design. In fact, it gets us to dive into the customer's world and understanding their needs and pain points. When figuring out your target audience, you should consider working on different points, such as building a concept, brainstorming, and gathering information. After creating a specific target audience, we then start creating user flows, which navigates how a user is likely to use the product in assumed scenarios. After that, we would start creating wireframes, which are usually low-fidelity gray boxes and layouts. Wireframes are usually made to help you plan the overall placement and layout of your content, so it would be an extremely general draft without thinking too much about details like colors, fonts, designs, and so on and so forth. These details would be taken care of in the next step, which is prototyping. The concept of prototyping demonstrates how the blog, application, website, or anything you're working on will look like to the users and what actions or windows pop up when people tap on a button, for example. After going through such process, you would want to confirm with your potential audience or clients about the product's functionality, which takes place in the final step of testing and sharing for feedback. In this step, you would be gathering any comments regarding your work and then start to make changes accordingly. After receiving your feedback, you then send your work to front and back end developers in order for them to build your product. All of the steps that start from wireframing up to feedback adjustment are easily done with the usage of Figma. To elaborate more on the program, Figma calls itself a collaborative interface design tool. This means that people would use it to design whichever type of project they want, all while creating a prototype and sharing it within the program itself. Through Figma, you would be able to create components such as symbols. You can apply effects such as drop shadows or blurs. You're able to create artboards, which are called frames in Figma, and they also have pages, which we will discuss and learn about later on. Another feature that Figma offers is versioning, which is similar to other design programs such as Adobe Photoshop, where you can jump back drastically to an old version if you don't like something that you have created. A feature that makes Figma stand out the most amongst other prototyping programs and applications, though, is the sharing feature, where you're able to collaborate with people within a project and see them work on it with you at the same time. This gives greater and more flexible access to team projects, especially with the commenting feature where you can very easily and directly receive any notes regarding your work. Finally, aside from its main purpose, which is prototyping, you're able to help the team who will be building your work, such as front and back end developers, like I mentioned earlier, by copying codes of certain features or objects within the prototype of the design. I will be very obviously demonstrating that within the course. Now, there are countless of tools out there for user experience and user interface design, but Figma's collaborative feature makes it the most beneficial out of that variety. And in this course, I want to introduce you to Figma and get you up and running with the concepts and features you'll need to know in order to start your first design project in Figma. In this course, we will be covering some important topics in the user experience world. This includes this very brief introductory class discussing how to shape and understand your audience with user research, as well as discussing user interface principles. So, after the introduction phase of this course, you should expect to proceed into the usage and creation in Figma much more efficiently. Afterwards, we will look into the process of drafting, which starts with mapping users' journey in order to plan what we would want to create in Figma, and then get into the program straight away. We will later be going through the first phase of user interface design, which is wireframing, and afterwards we will look more into the prototyping phase, where we will have denser practical work classes. The prototyping phase will be covering every feature you have access to on Figma, and after that, we will apply everything mentioned in the course together. Throughout all of the chapters of the course, I will be assigning you some practical work or some discussions that you can answer in order to keep everything you've learned fresh in your memory. Participation is optional, but 100% encouraged. For example, I would like to ask you guys now, what feature are you most excited to learn about in this course? As a conclusion, we have a fair amount of topics to touch on, and in order to cover them all very easily, our next lesson will be covering the base of user interface design in order to be able to build up an entire successful project. So, good luck, and let's get right into the course.